Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriya. Nashtavrayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, the Hansa Guhya Prayers, text number 33. So Prajapati Daksha is offering these prayers to the Supreme Lord. Yo anugrihartham bhajatam padmoolam manama rupo bhagwan anantaha namani rupani cho janma karma bher bheje samayam paramahas prasidatu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inconceivably opulent, who is devoid of all material names, forms, and pastimes, and who is all-pervading, is especially merciful to the devotees who worship his lotus feet. Thus he exhibits transcendental forms and names with his different pastimes. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, be merciful to me. In regard to the significant word, Anama Rupaha, Sridhar Swami says, Prakrita Nama Rupa Rahito Api. The word Anam, which means having no name, indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material name. Simply by chanting the name of Narayan to call his son, Ajami will attain salvation. This means that Narayan is not an ordinary mundane name. It is non-material. So all his names are also spiritual, even if his names are connected with his pastimes. Just like behind me, there's a pastime of Krishna dancing on the hoods of Kalia. So we have a deity in Fiji. It's Kalia Krishna. So Krishna dancing on the hoods of Kalia, that's a deity in the temple. So even if somebody just chants Kalia Krishna, even Kalia gets benefited, and Krishna definitely is Krishna. So we get benefited by just chanting Kalia Krishna and by worshipping the deity Kalia Krishna. The word Anam therefore indicates that the name of the Supreme Lord do not belong to this material world. The vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not a material sound. And similarly, the form of the Lord and his appearance and activities are all non-material. To show his causeless mercy to the devotees as well as to the non-devotees, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in this material world with names, forms, and pastimes, all of which are transcendental. Unintelligent men who cannot understand this think that these names, forms, and pastimes are material, and therefore they deny that he has a name or a form. So unintelligent men, they just cannot understand who God is and what his name is, what are his pastimes. So much of power in there. They cannot understand. Considered with scrutiny the conclusion of non-devotees who say that God has no name, and that of devotees who know that his name is not material are practically the same. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material name, form, birth, appearance, or disappearance. But nevertheless, it takes his birth, Janma, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san. Although the Lord is unborn, Aja, and his body never undergoes material changes, he nevertheless appears as an incarnation, maintaining himself always in the transcendental stage, Shuddha Sattva. Thus he exhibits his transcendental form, names, and activities. That is his special mercy towards his devotee. Others may continue merely arguing about whether the absolute truth has form or not. But when a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, sees the Lord personally, he becomes spiritually ecstatic. So that's a big difference. A devotee, he sees the form of the Lord, he sees the pastimes of the Lord, he becomes ecstatic. But a non-devotee who has not such mercy, they'll just say, oh, it's just a form that you guys have made it up. Unintelligent persons say that the Lord does nothing. Actually, he has nothing to do, but nevertheless, he has to do everything because without his sanction, no one can do anything. The unintelligent, however, cannot see how he is working and how the entire material nature is working under his direction. His different potencies work perfectly. Not tasya karya, karyam karanam cha vidyate. He has nothing to do personally, for since his potencies are perfect, everything is immediately done by his will. Persons to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not revealed cannot see how he is working. And therefore, they think that even if there is God, that he has nothing to do or has no particular name. So that's a big difference between devotees and non-devotees. They try to understand or they try to put conditions or logic, but Krishna is beyond any conditions or logic. Actually, the Lord's name already exists because of his transcendental activities. The Lord is sometimes called Gun Karma because he is named according to his transcendental activities. For example, Krishna means all attractive. This is the Lord's name because his transcendental qualities make him very attractive. As a small boy, he lifted Govardhan Hill, and in his childhood, he killed many demons. Such activities are very attractive, and therefore he is sometimes called Giridhari, Madhusudan, Agha Nishudan, and so on. Because he acted as a son of Nanda Maharaj, he is called Nanda Tanuj. These names already exist, but since non-devotees cannot understand the names of the Lord, he is sometimes called Anam or nameless. This means that he has no material names. All his activities are spiritual, and therefore he has spiritual names. For people who are not devotees, who have no inclination to be a devotee, we let them get purified by somehow other. Either they get prasad or chant of the holy names, somehow or other. If they chant, they'll definitely get benefited. Generally, less intelligent men are under the impression that the Lord has no form. Therefore, he appears in his original form as Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, to carry out his mission of participating in the battle of Kurukshetra and pastimes to protect the devotees and vanquish the demons. This is his mercy. For those who think that he has no form and no work to do, Krishna comes to show that indeed he works. He works so gloriously that no one else can perform such uncommon acts. Although he appeared as a human being, he married 16,108 wives, which is impossible for a human being to do. The Lord performs such activities to show people how great he is, how affectionate he is, and how merciful he is. Although his original name is Krishna, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, he acts in unlimited ways, and therefore, according to his work, he has many, many thousands of names. So all his names are related to his either pastimes or related to his devotees. Yashodanandan, Devaki Nandan, Nandanandan. So many names, unlimited names actually he has. But those who don't have those devotional attitude, they cannot understand and they cannot appreciate those names. In fact, they all say, and this is what all we have been also taught in the schools, it's mythology. It's all myth. But this is not mythology. These pastimes actually happened. So this is all part of history. So Puranas means history, historical records. That's what Purana means. But those who don't have faith, they say it's all mythology, Hindu mythology and Greek mythology, and this mythology, that mythology, because they cannot relate to the pastimes of Krishna, of Ram, of Nrsimhadev, of Vamandev, Varahadev. They cannot even understand, they cannot conceive of those pastimes. But a devotee says, yes, I cannot conceive of, but my Lord is so wonderful. He performs such beautiful, such wonderful, such superhuman pastimes. What's so difficult for my Lord to do so? यह प्राकृतर ज्ञान पथर जनानम यथाशयम देहगतो विभाति यथा नीला पार्थिवम आश्रितो गुणम स ईश्वरो में कुरुताम मनोरथम. As the air carries various characteristics of the physical elements, like the aroma of a flower or colors resulting from a mixture of dust in the air, the Lord appears through lowered systems of worship according to one's desires, although he appears as a demigod and not in his original form. What is the use of these other forms? May the original Supreme Personality of Godhead please fulfill my desires. The impersonalists imagine the various demigods to be forms of the Lord. For example, the Mayavadis worship 5 demigods, Panchopasana. They do not actually believe in the form of the Lord, but for the sake of worship, they imagine some form to be God. Generally, they imagine a form of Vishnu, a form of Shiva, and forms of Ganesha, Sun God, and Durga. This is called the Panchopasana. Daksha, however, wanted to worship not an imaginary form, but the supreme form of Lord Krishna. So yes, Mayavadis, they worship this Panchopasana, Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesh, Suryadev, and Durga. But see the Lord, when he is performing his pastimes, he sometimes he performs pastime which bewilders non-devotees. Just like there's a beautiful pastime of a devotee of Ganesh going to Jagannath Puri. So all his life, he had this notion that Ganeshi is the Supreme Lord. So he went to Jagannath Puri. He went to take darshan of Lord Jagannath. And in his mind, he thought Ganeshi is the Supreme. So when he went to take darshan of Jagannath, he didn't see Ganeshi. And he said, this cannot be Supreme. And he came out. And at night, he was just staying in wherever he was staying in Jagannath Puri. So idea was next morning he wanted to go back to his village. Now Jagannathji being Jagannathji, he comes to dream in his pujari, and in a dream in pujari's mind, and tells him, go call that person. He has come from so far away to take my darshan. Tell him to come tomorrow and take my darshan. So Pujari goes to that person. He says, Jagannathji is asking you to come to take darshan tomorrow. And the person was relenting, no, I'm not. Oh, he's not Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is Ganesh. Pujari said, just come. Jagannathji is asking you to come. Just come and then go on your way. Finally, he relented. He came. And just to please him, Jagannathji took the form of Ganesh. Until today, he is, I think, around some time around Rath Yatra. I don't exactly remember when. He's dressed as Ganesh, Gajapati. Jagannath is different. He's completely different. We cannot. There's no comparison. but yes, Ganesh is not the Supreme Lord. It's Jagannath is. But Jagannath wanted to fulfill the desire of that devotee who came all the way to take darshan of Ganesh. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and an ordinary living being. As pointed out in a previous verse, Sarvam Puman Veda Gunam Shatagyo Na Veda Sarvagyam Anantamide. The omnipotent Supreme Lord knows everything, but the living being does not actually know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I know everything, but no one knows me. This is the difference between the Supreme Lord and an ordinary living being. In a prayer in Srimad Bhagavatam, Queen Kunti says, my dear Lord, you exist inside and outside, yet no one can see you. This is the beauty of the Supreme Lord. Without us having some love for Krishna, we cannot conceive his presence or perceive his presence anywhere. The conditioned soul cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by speculative knowledge or by imagination. One must therefore know the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He reveals himself, but he cannot be understood by speculation. So this is the way of knowing him or seeing him. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. So only by his mercy we can understand to whatever extent he wants us to understand him. This is the verdict of the Shastra. An ordinary man may be a great philosopher and may speculate upon what the absolute truth is, what his form is, and where he is existing. But then he cannot understand these truths. Sevan mukhehi jivatu. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead only through devotional service. This is also explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhagavad Gita. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. Unintelligent persons want to imagine or concoct a form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but devotees want to worship the actual personality of Godhead. Therefore, Daksha prays, one may think of you as personal, impersonal, or imaginary, but I wish to pray to your Lordship that you fulfill my desires to see you as you actually are. So these were the prayers of Daksha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that this verse is especially meant for the impersonalist who thinks that he himself is the Supreme because there is no difference between the living being and God. He thinks that way. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that there is only one Supreme Truth and that he is also that Supreme Truth. Actually, this is not knowledge, but foolishness. And this verse is especially meant for such fools whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion. So reading this kind of heavy statement by Srila Prabhupada, many people get offended. How can Prabhupada, such a great Acharya, call others, Mayavadis, as fools? But Prabhupada said, this is not what I am saying. It's Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Avajananti mam muda. Those who don't know me, they're fools and rascals. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that such persons, Jnani, Manina, think themselves very advanced, but actually they are unintelligent. In fact, if you remember, a few days back, I posted a video on our group where this person was saying that we pervade all over the body, and there's trillions of cells, and we are in each cell. And then he was comparing, then outside also there's everything is made up of those cells, something like that. And then this is how we should serve everybody, thinking everybody is myself. Well, the logic behind serving everybody is okay. I mean, the idea behind serving everybody is good, but the consciousness, thinking that I am him, that's where we make the mistake. I'm not him. I'm not Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm not the Supreme Truth. I'm never going to become Supreme Truth. I'm only a fallen, conditioned soul. And all the trillions of cells in this body, they have souls, but those souls are different from one primary soul that is occupying this body. That soul, the primary soul, is responsible for the activities of this body, not the trillions of souls. In each and every cell, they are not responsible. They don't get any karmic reactions. And the other souls in other bodies, they are different. Of course, we all are part and parcel of Krishna. In that way, we should serve everybody. But not thinking I'm him and I am everywhere and he's me and this or that. That kind of logic doesn't work. I mean, what is wrong in serving the other person thinking he is also part and parcel of Krishna? Why I have to think that I'm him, that's when I will serve him. Why? And then we start differentiating, because then if I am him and I am me, then why not serve the animals and the plants and the insects? And why when I am in this body, consciousness is different, and I'm in a snake body, the consciousness is different. How do we explain that? So it's better not to get confused with these kinds of philosophies. In this regard, this verse, Srila Madhvacharya says, so deha stam harim prahor. There are three classes of men: the lowest, adham, those in the middle, madhyam, and the best, uttam. The lowest, adham, think that there is no difference between God and the living entity, except that the living entity is under designations, whereas the absolute truth has no designations. In their opinion, as soon as the designations for the material body are dissolved, the jiva, the living entity, will mix or will merge into the Supreme. They give the argument of Ghatakash and Patakash, in which the body is compared to a pot with the sky within and the sky without. So Ghat Akash means like a pot, there is air or sky within and the sky outside. Similarly, this body, according to them, is like a pot with sky within and sky outside. When the pot breaks, the sky inside becomes one with the sky outside. And so the impulsionists say that the living being becomes one with the Supreme. This is their argument. But Srila Madhvacharya says that such an argument is put forward by the lowest class of men, another class of men. And why he says that? The living entity inside this body is not Akash, it's not sky. The living entity has a personality, it has a form. And that form does not merge. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we cannot do anything to the living entity, anything to the spirit soul. You cannot break it, you cannot cut it to pieces, you can moist it, you cannot do anything. So they give lots of these arguments, which are very, very confusing if you don't read Prabhupada's books. Another class of men cannot ascertain what the actual form of the Supreme is, but they agree that there is a Supreme who controls the activities of the ordinary living beings. Such philosophers are accepted as mediocre. The best, however, are those who understand the Supreme Lord, Satchidananda Vigraha. His form is completely spiritual, full of bliss, and completely distinct from that of the conditioned soul or any other living entity. Such philosophers are the best because they know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself differently to worshippers in various modes of material nature. They know that there are 33 million demigods just to convince the conditioned soul that there is a supreme power and to induce him to agree to worship one of these demigods so that by the association of devotees he may be able to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even Uttam philosophers, so best philosophers, they can take us to worship of demigod, but that is still okay. Because slowly a person goes, first he understands there is somebody supreme, superior to me, and I have to worship. And then he comes to the level of understanding who the supreme superior is. And this is what Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. I am the origin of all the demigods. I am superior to everyone, even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods. These are the conclusions of the Shastras, and one who accepts these conclusions should be considered a first-class philosopher. Such a philosopher knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord of the demigods. And this is what Daksha is praying, that I want to pray to that Supreme Lord, not just any demigods. So Prabhupada spends quite some time in writing the purpose to make sure we understand each and every finest point of the philosophy. This is more important. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Jai Shri